people gather round your town when things are on the up or things are falling down. Celebrate the hard times, stay passionate through the lows, find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to this Monday. Well, welcome to this Monday's Monday assessment by the View from the Medway Fancast in partnership with the Gillingham FC Supporters Club and sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station. It's been a bit of a rush tonight because the kids are on school holidays, which is always annoying, but we are back and there are definitely no horrible ball pits involved. So I am joined this evening by Phil Reynolds, aka Beanhead on Twitter. I am joined by co-host David, and I am joined by smashing it out of the ballpark, Mr. Warren Taylor. So how are we, boys?
All good, thank you, mate.
Good, boys. So I want to start something different this week and just do a little bit of housekeeping. So Warren, if you've got anything to say or any shout outs to do before we get into the show.
Yeah, I'd just like to do a shout out to all those at Salford that I met up with on Saturday. I didn't really want to go, to be honest. It's a bit of a pig to get to from the train. And let's be honest, the football ain't that riveting. But a big shout out to Colin Creasy, who I met for the probably umpteenth time. I probably know him from playing cricket. I must have got him out because he sneered at me. And then I met up with Sarah Potter, Eddie Alcorn, Jimmy Case, Colin Purtill, the two guys from Scotland, Paul and Edinburgh Steve. And they made it a real good day out, and it made me realise what going to football is all about, and that's going with different people, meeting up with different people, going to games, having a good drink and whatever. But Edinburgh Steve has really impressed me because he's shown me that not only do you go to football, not only do you go for a drink, but you can go to a nice museum and you can go to watch a Bo Peep celebration, and then you can go and watch a show in the evening like Phantom of the Opera, or you can go and see Jason Donovan dressed in tights in a Rocky Horror Show. And even at the end of all that, when you think there's nothing left to do, you can go and sit on a station and take some train engine numbers for future reference. So thank you to Edinburgh Steve for making my day quite pleasurable on Saturday.
Yeah, I like the fact that he mentioned Colin Creasy and not Dave Creasy. So, Dave, what did you do wrong on Saturday?
Absolutely no idea. I've never even met Warren in person. I'd only ever spoken to him on here, and I don't even get a mention.
Liberty.
Dave, I speak to you quite often, but it was good. You're on the show, but I just thought I'd give a mention to your dad because he did go. He's going to away games, and it was good to meet him and good to have a little chat with him.
It'd do his ego good.
Exactly.
Yeah, Dave, any housekeeping that you want to pick up on before we get into the show, or are you good?
No, I'm all good, mate.
Phil, it's the first time you've been on, mate, so welcome.
Thank you.
view from the Medway virgin, but definitely not a virgin when it comes to other things in life. I hope.
No, you know that, Chris. But okay.
So we will quickly, and we will get straight on to the Views News special this week. And it is down to you now, Phil. And we will talk about what happened last week and the outage of the Gillingham FC accounts. I would just like to say that this is just an explanation for fans. This isn't us going to pick it apart. This isn't going to be us doing anything else. But if you do have any questions for Phil that you're not quite sure of as we go through this process, then please let us know and we will put them to him. So, yeah, Phil, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Obviously the accounts came out, and me being the sad accountant geek, I jumped on it straight away to give my kind of tweets overview of it for all the fans, really. That's the main reason I do it, just so everyone can hopefully understand things a bit better. The key headline was when they would land is that we'd made a £4.3 million loss, which is quite a startling figure as a headline, isn't it? I think it kind of scared quite a lot of people straight away. But when you kind of delve into the detail, one thing I would say as well, it wasn't quite a 12-month period. They'd extended our end of year by 1 month. So there's a 13-month period of set of accounts. So you kind of have to start playing around with the maths a bit and divide things by 13 or divide by 56 weeks to get weekly and yearly and annual figures. But ultimately, it doesn't look good when you look at the numbers in the cold light of day. So you do have to delve into some of the detail, and not all of that will be fairly obvious to most people. What is clear from the accounts is that we were insolvent by just over £1 million. So that's on the balance sheet page where it shows whether you've got net current assets or net current liabilities. If you've got net current liabilities, it means you're insolvent. So what that means is basically you haven't got enough cash or assets to pay your current bills effectively. So your current bills would be your players, wages, suppliers, the tax man, etc. and stuff like that. But why we're insolvent mainly is because we are being propped up by Brad's investment in the company. So in that period, that 13-month period, he put in £2.2 million worth of cash injection as a loan, and he also put in £1.3 million as a donation. Okay, so the loan he's going to get back at some point, theoretically, but the donation is a donation. That's gone. He won't see that money again. And effectively, when you look at kind of the accounts, you can see how much we kind of spent on players in that period, which is about 300k, and then we spent just under about £1 million on other investment in like the stadium. So think about the things that we had all announced. So we had the shop done. There was some mentions about the roof having to be replaced on parts of the stadium. We had a bit of the LED boards being installed and stuff like that. So all that kind of capital investment was done as well. So effectively, Brad's £1.3 million donation paid for those player signings and that capital injection in terms of the stadium in that year. Okay, so that gives you a bit of an overview there. The other positive thing, which from a sense, was that our income, particularly in commercial, doubled in the year. That's absolutely an amazing result, to be honest. I think that shows that the decision to install the LEDs paid off and some, and very quickly. So that was really good work. It shows that the commercial team are doing a fantastic job. I think it's fairly easy to see that. Like they come up with some new innovative ideas. They're doing like the wine and dine now is open to all season ticket holders, whereas before it was a bit of a closed shop and stuff like that. So that's positive. And then you come back to staff costs. Now, staff costs will include not just the players, it will include everyone in the club. And it is difficult to kind of get into that. But ultimately, those staff costs went up quite a bit to 2.35 million, so 56% increase. So you'd argue that about 75% of that typically would be players in most football clubs. That's the kind of rough idea, rule of thumb. It could be higher, it could be lower, it could be miles out, but that is the rough rule of thumb that they say football clubs, it's 75% So 75% at 2.35 million is the players. Also, because you had that first, this is the first full year under Brad. So obviously last year it was a mix of Scally's full ownership / Brad's kind of coming to the rescue. So remember, we signed all the players like Hawkins, DN, Nichols, etc. We'd have only had about 6 months worth of their salaries in those accounts last time. This year we've got 13 months worth. So that starts to paint a bit of a picture. Okay. So ultimately that financial loss was 4.3 million. Okay. So effectively our income just wasn't covering the amount of cost that was going through the accounts. That on basically a weekly basis means we were losing 77 grand a week. But within accounts and kind of costs, profit and losses, there's some like what I call paper figures. So when you do stuff to your stadium, or you buy a stadium, or you buy players, the cost of that investment is spread over what's called its useful economic life. And you determine that. So for players, it's quite simple. Their useful economic life is deemed to be the length of their contract. So if you buy a player for 100 grand, their contract, and you give them a 2-year contract, the cost of their contract will be spread over 2 years. So you'll see a 50 grand hit in your profit and loss in 1 year, a 50 grand hit in the other. Okay. And then it's a similar process when you do investment to your stadium and stuff. So whatever that cost is, and depending on what the useful economic life is deemed to be, that cost gets spread over numerous years. So the club had what's called depreciation and amortization figure in the accounts. That was about 500,000. So you kind of want to ignore that to some extent. And that's why sometimes it's quite useful to look at what the cash loss was. So in the accounts, it's clear that the cash loss, our cash moved from just over £1 million down to about 300k. So we actually had about a 960k loss in terms of cash. Again, that equates to about 17 grand a week. So it doesn't matter how much money we're going in, we were losing 17 grand a week in cash. So if you just stand still and do nothing, you are losing 17,000 pounds worth of cash out of your bank every single week. Okay. And that's with Brad's investment. Okay. So Brad obviously did quite a bit of investment in terms of what I would say is I've kind of washed the face of the donation versus the investment in players and the infrastructure stadium. They kind of contradict each other out. So actually, if we then start to look at ignoring the £2.2 million loan that Brad made, which was purely a cash loan, that's when it starts to get a bit real. Okay. So if you ignore that investment, the club actually made a £3.1 million cash loss. That equates to just over £55,000 a week. So if you was just at home doing nothing, you didn't have any income, you had X amount in your bank account, and if you just stand alone, all you'll see is 55 grand going out of your bank account every week. Okay. At the end of June, the club had £327,000 worth of cash remaining in its bank account. So based on that average cash position per week of 55k going out, ignoring any investment by Brad, that means we had 6 weeks worth of cash left. Mm-hmm. So within 6 weeks, if Brad did nothing, I didn't put any more money in the club, it would run out of money. So that's how it works. Okay. So there's no doubt for me, Brad is being very generous. I think we're in, as I kind of alluded in my tweets, we're in that position now as a club where we see so many other clubs in League 2, 1, Championship, Premier League, where, you know, I call it chasing the dream. That money's going in. What's the return on that investment at the moment? And that's where it's so to some people, I think it's seen as almost like a gambling addiction, isn't it? To some extent, for some people, it's if I keep putting money in, am I going to get something back? We're not saying Brad's that kind of character at all. I think he's not a true businessman. But it's the best thing I can kind of relate to is how it can seem to be for someone. So that's the kind of where we were as a club for 23-24. If I try and predict where we're going to be for this current year. We're currently sitting right now. Again, this is all a bit me guesstimating and stuff like that, but there's no doubt based on that cash position at the end of June, because if you think about it, with season ticket renewals, we all renewed our season tickets pretty much by June last year, hadn't we? There'd only be a certain number of fans who got it on credit. But all that meant was the club would have received the money already, and effectively the supporters would pay the credit company that money, because the club would have had that up front. So the club had that cash pretty much in the bank account at the end of June for season tickets for this current year. Okay, so the only income it was going to get would be match day sales, commercial income, all for this current year and stuff it generates. Okay, so there's no doubt for me, Brad would have had to have put some sort of cash injection again in this year. Okay, if we just did nothing, but we haven't done nothing, have we?
No,
it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a season, hasn't it? So, first and foremost, we went out and we signed some new players, free transfers, so no cost, but they are going to come with higher wages, as we know. Yeah, we've all played Football Manager. We know the drill.
I don't know what you're talking about. I only got Gillingham to the Premier League in 5 seasons. So
we should have sent your CV into the club.
Well, I could have done, but I'd have been sacked in 2 months.
But yeah, so we had the likes of Nevitt, Little, Rowe, and Nolan all sign on free transfers, and they were all performing very well in League Two, weren't they? So I can't believe they were. I'm not saying they're the highest paid players, but they certainly probably weren't the lowest paid players. No. So that would have been more to the wage bill, because we didn't really have many big hitters leave, other than maybe Lapsley in January, and maybe one or two, maybe your likes of Jeffries maybe was on a bit of money, but again would have been signed under the Scally era, so I doubt that it was on much. Maybe some pack of sweets or something. Then we obviously Bonner went. So there's going to be a payoff for him, probably paying up the rest of his contract. So that's cash out the door. John Coleman, I don't think he would have really cost the club a lot of money, in all honesty. Yes, he would have cost a wage, but his contract was 18 end of the year. We've ended it a little bit early. We've probably paid him up to the end of the contract. That's probably not a lot, to be honest. So I don't think John would have been a serial earner in the manager stakes, in all honesty. I might be doing him a hardship there, but I'm not convinced he would have been. Positives, again, more commercial growth. We've seen it, the Town End sponsored now, with its beautiful shell seal branding, etc. So, fair play to the commercial team. They've pulled one out of the bag there, haven't they? That's more income for the club that just didn't exist previously. So that would have helped. Joe Comper mentioned shirt sales being record sales. No doubt we'd have felt something there. I'm not saying that would have been big bucks by any means, because you've got to think about it's going to be a cost of a shirt. So it's only profit really, but it's still a boost. And then the elephant in the room, the last one. We all know what happened back in October. We said goodbye to Mr. Scally. I was present at that AGM, and he's not going to go quietly. We all know that. And as I did tweet last week, there's been some documents filed with regards to court. I think it's Brad and the club taking him to court over what, we're not quite sure. But there's going to be some costs there. Now, speculating, I don't know who's paying that. Brad could be paying that out of his own pocket. It does say it's Up the Jewels LLC taking Scally to court, and the football club. So one of those two entities you'd expect to be paying the costs. Of course, if the club wins, they'll probably want their costs reimbursed. So that's usually the way these things happen. So that will be interesting as well. And we wait to see how things are going to play out with that. And that's kind of it, really. So I don't think, if I'm honest, from a financial perspective, we're going to see a suddenly swing in results. I think it'll be similar. I really do think 24-25 will be a similar set of figures. Maybe more cash injection by Brad, maybe not. But ultimately, I think this is where we're going to be now. I think it was someone else shared, I think, Colchester United's accounts. And they made a similar size loss last year. And they've got like loans to their owners of nearly £40 million.
That's mad, isn't it?
One thing I would say, though, I want to reassure fans, because it sounds scary what I'm saying, the big numbers, but there's a thing that auditors have to sign off with these accounts that is called, to sign off on what's called going concern. It's a phrase, okay? And what that means is basically, are you going to be around in 12 months' time? Okay, so what they do as an auditor, they have to get comfortable that the club is still going to be here 12 months from the date of signing off the audit report.
Right.
Okay. Now, because we're insolvent, if we were a normal business and we were insolvent, an auditor would struggle with that. But because Brad's effectively putting money in and supporting the club financially, what is likely to have happened here is the auditors would have had to get comfortable that Brad is going to continue to have done that, and also has, shall we say, the resources to continue to do that.
Right.
And because they signed off literally these accounts, whatever it was, literally a few weeks back, that means that they've got reassurance up to that point in time. So pretty much to now, that means they've got assurance and they're comfortable we're not only going to be around in the 12 months that have pretty much gone and been and gone, but we're going to continue to be around in another 12 months.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's a positive that fans shouldn't be too worried about. But obviously, if one day Brad gets upset and says, I'm done with this, then, we financially, with the figures we've got and where we're at, we wouldn't be able to survive.
But then, so Phil, can I just quickly ask you? So, say for example, next season we go up into League One. Obviously, we don't know what the accounts will look like then. But surely they'll look a lot better. Like, when the more successful we are, then surely they'll look a lot better.
Yes. You'd like to think attendances would go up a bit more, wouldn't you? So not just from a home fan perspective, but we're going to be facing bigger clubs, so you get more away fans come. This is why, again, why Brad and Joe constantly say about there's no point of investing in the town end. There's no point, and these figures prove it. I absolutely back them up on that. It drives me insane if some fans keep raising that question. Because you're not business people, you don't understand. It is no point doing it. You're not going to get any return on that investment. But you're going to have to pay players more because you've gone up a league. So there's a bit of offsetting. Sponsorship will go up. I'm a sponsor at the club. I know that no doubt my price will go up because we might be seen against bigger clubs and more spread around the world and all that kind of stuff. So I think it could be positive, and I think the biggest thing is the club, as they've been saying about coming to this summer, and they're going to streamline, I think, things in terms of finances and wages of the wage bill and all that kind of stuff. I like to think we've learned some lessons. I think 25, 26, I think, and Brad and Shannon have always said that since they came in. They want to run this as a club that can justify its means. I think they're finding that's a lot hard to do in League Two now. And there's a reason why so many clubs have struggled with that. And I'm going to say something really controversial here. Actually, if you forget the last few years when Scally completely zoned out, for want of a better word, from the club, he actually did a bloody good job in terms of keeping us on the straight and narrow for quite some time. You think about those years in League One under Steve Lovell and that, when we were probably playing those players next to nothing, financially we were pretty sound. So he does deserve a bit of credit, regardless of how the club was and the feel of it and all that stuff. Forget that. Financially, he was run us fairly well. Yeah.
So I've just got a quick question from Tony Woodrow. Ground ownership, ? Scally and GFC Holdings. I don't quite.
Okay, I can probably say so the answer to the question is the ground is owned by GFC Holdings, GFC Holdings is the holding company of the trading arm of the football club, which is the Football Clubs Council we're talking about. But ultimately, Brad's loans, etc., have what's called kind of a guarantee against the stadium. So if all went to pot, Brad could call in and say, I want to sell the stadium to repay me my debts.
Right. Okay.
But it's no different to what Paul Scally had. That's no different.
Yeah.
And that's fairly normal commercial behaviour. So again, I wouldn't be worried about that.
David, have you got any quick questions at all, or Warren, before we move on to the game itself? Because this has been really enlightening. So long as Phil's finished, of course.
Yeah.
Then Warren.
Yeah, I just look at it and I think, Phil, you're an accountant. Do you think that football is really overstretching itself in that quest for glory against actual financial reward? And do you think that at some point players, managers, physios and whatever else we employ now, compared to the bloke with a bucket and sponge when I first started, do you think that football has got to take a good long hard look at itself and think we football will never be around in 10 years' time if we continue at the way we're going? And do you think that if one club was to fold because of financial reasons now, do you think a whole pack of cards would fall with it?
I'll answer the first question first. Yeah, I think there's going to come a tipping point. I just don't see how it can keep going on. I mean, Sky and all these TV companies are paying these massive. If we just talk at the top of the pyramid at the moment, they're paying all these massive lucrative deals for TV rights, aren't they? Yeah. Now, let's be brutally honest. There's a lot of people around who maybe aren't, shall we say, purchasing their ability to watch live football through those TV schedulings. They're perhaps getting them elsewhere at a much cheaper rate. So I'm looking at it and going, so Sky are paying all this money out. You know, they're paying, people like Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds to present and be on these shows. Where's their return coming? Their return can only come from people's subscriptions. I struggle with it a bit. And that's where I'm like, surely at some point there's going to be a major bubble burst and then that will filter down the leagues. It just has to. Ultimately, we're governed by what happens at the top. And that's why everyone spend all this money, because it's the race to the top, isn't it? Everyone's desperate to get up to the upper reaches of the football pyramid. The second question, I don't know. I mean, we've seen other clubs, and we've seen you. Trying to think now who went all the way down. Rochdale have had a bad time, haven't they? They could have almost gone out of business. We've seen people. Sorry,
Scunthorpe.
Yeah, Scunthorpe. So but they've kind of bounced back again. Ultimately, it's us, isn't it? Who comes to the rescue when all these things happen? Us as fans. So, Morecambe's probably the next big one to watch. I think Morecambe, they go out of the league. That would be really interesting. Because they're in dire straits. So I don't think it will be a rolling snowball effect.
So I've got a question from Luke Teaching. Don't know why he didn't put it on the thing, but he's put, can you ask if Phil would prefer to see a larger sum of investment from Brad to make us solvent, or is instalments an equal merit?
I think
on equal merit. Sorry.
Yeah, I think in the instalments is fine. I don't think you need to make us solvent necessarily. At the end of the day, if he invests, that's going to just be another liability. So actually, what Brad needs to do is write off. To make a solvent, he'd have to write off his investment and convert it to shares. Yeah, that's what a lot of the bigger clubs do. They eventually get to a point where they're putting so much money in the owners. They say, well, I'm never going to get that, I don't know, £1 million back. I convert it to shares, and then you look more solvent because you've just taken that liability and turned it into share capital. ultimately he's then writing it off, a bit like he did with that £1 million donation.
Yeah. No, fair. So, David, have you got anything before we move on to the game itself? Because it's been quite enlightening for me, to be quite honest, because when you see it on paper, but when it's explained to you verbally, I think it makes a lot more sense. So, yeah, David, anything from yourself?
Yeah, just one. Are you aware if Brad's got like a financial advisor or anything? Because it just it's because obviously last year we went down the B team route, didn't we? And we had all these extra players that were going to be doing B team games that kind of quickly fizzled, and we had Keith Millen that was running all of that. Again, another head in the club. Do you know if he's took any advice on League Two football and around finances? Because obviously it's a big figure, and it's just wondered if he had any advice from anyone that you know.
Not that I know.
I do apologise.
No, it's not that I know. I don't think he has got a financial advisor. So I don't think Brad is. In the rooms are he's got a bit of spare cash knocking around. I don't think he needs advice on that front. I feel he may have trusted certain people who are leading certain operations of the club. And I just think from the comments I've heard, so I was present when the club did its recruitment presentation to sponsors a good few weeks ago. And I think you start to read between the lines. I think I think things will be better going forward because I think we've worked out who we can trust and who's going to use the money and spend it wisely. I know everyone's got certain knives out for certain ex-players who are still with the club and stuff like that, but I think you need to look at who was leading that group.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Fair, boys. So thank you, Phil, for that. Unless you've got anything else on it, mate, because I don't want to interrupt you because I found that really interesting. So we will quickly move on to the game. Again, if anyone wants to place comments, then we can take comments until we go off air. So we'll quickly move on. And Salford were founded in 1940 as Salford Central. They later changed their name to Salford Amateurs in 1963. They competed in the local leagues until 1963. When they moved to the Manchester Football League, they won the Lancashire FA Amateur Cup 1970, 1973 and 1975. The 2024-2025 season is a sixth consecutive season in League Two, and they're also owned by the 92. So yeah, everybody loves them. So we quickly touch on the lineup. So we had Glenn Morris in goal. We had a back five of Max Clark, Shadowgi, Connor Musson, Sam Gale, Romeo Hutton. We then had a middle two of Armani Little and Robbie McKenzie, with Jaden Clark in at the 10, and then Elliot Nevitt and Ollie Hawkins up front. So I will start with you, Warren, on this one, and your thoughts on the lineup and the subs bench.
Well, why we dropped Johnny Williams, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know Ainsworth's come out and said that it's for multitude of reasons and whatever. But if you put Johnny Williams against Jaden Clark in any position on that pitch, I know who I'd pick.
Yeah.
And it ain't Jaden, I'm afraid. I just... It's the same old. Did Little have to come back in, or should he have stayed on the bench and earned his spot? I don't know. The biggest one was Smith being left out, which afterwards, after the fact, when we found out he was injured, but that was a bit of a surprise seeing Ogie in there. Apart from that, Hawkins and Nevitt, I'd have played them up front. Hawkins just gives us something a little bit extra. And something different up front for me. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I think we look better with him up top than we don't. He does provide an outlet, and he does draw fouls. He does draw players to him. So I think he allows an outlet for others. But apart from that, I just wonder what's going on with certain players, like your Nolans, your Amers? Have they been told they're gone?
Mm.
Do they face not fit? I know they've said Dak's injured, but he didn't look that injured lying in the ballpark today, did he?
No comment on that, mate. I had a few. So it was quite tongue in cheek for me with it, but it's obviously let it breathed its own life, I guess. But yeah, no, you kind of do with Dak. Like I think with Dak, it's the thing where I don't mind what players do in their spare time, but when they're not playing, when they've clearly been singled out by John Coleman previously as probably an attitude player, to then, we as fans were so pleased for him to come back, weren't we, David?
Oh.
And right, so we were pleased for him to come back. We thought he was going to set the league alight, and to see him, it was kind of like a Euro trash type bloody thing. It wasn't. Let's be honest. It was like a Euro trash bullshit. And it did kind of irk me a little bit, because when you're like, okay, it was tongue in cheek saying, oh yeah, you could be earning money on the field. Yes, I appreciate that he can't at the moment because yet again he's injured, but it's kind of taking the piss out of the fan base, David, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. I'm a bit mixed on it, really, because, like I said, if it's his day off today, which I think it is, and he's injured, he can kind of do what he wants. But if you're going to record it and it's going to end up online, you're going to have to expect some Gills fans give you some abuse, and I think he's probably had a bit of that today as well.
Yeah. Well, from me, I guess, but as I say, it was tongue in cheek. So, Phil, yeah, your thoughts on sorry, Dave, and what were your thoughts on the lineup as well?
I'm a bit like Warren, really. Obviously, the Smith thing we didn't know, so it only really left Shad to come in. I think Williams probably deserved to start over Clark. I think Bode needed a rest. I think confidence had slowly started to dwindle, but I think we know my thoughts on Ollie Hawkins. I think he did his job a year and a half ago, and the fact that he still gets in the team just goes to show that either the strikers are out on loan, or I've just got this little inkling now for the rest of the season. I don't think we're going to see many loan players play. I feel like Ainsworth wants to see the players that he's going to be working with. And then I go against that with the fact that he bought Agbenone on when he probably could have bought Rowe on and had another look at Rowe. Yeah. But I don't think, unless we're desperate now, and that you'll see JJ Morgan. I don't think we're going to see him that much now. Smith's the interesting one, because I think I've heard rumours he's out of contract, and if we do want to look at him as a signing, I think you can't just shun him out the squad and not play him. I think they're going to still want to look at him. But I think, from now on, I do think a lot of the loan players we may not see. But I could be very wrong. Come tomorrow and they're all in the team again.
Yeah. No, I've heard similar rumours about Smith, but then I've also been told he's got another year left at Hull. How true that is, I don't know. We're if buts and maybes at the moment. So Phil, your thoughts on the lineup?
I think similar to both Warren and Dose said, really. I think in the telling thing there was Aymer wasn't even on the bench, so we've got absolutely zero defensive cover, and he's not making the bench. I think that is a massive kind of clear signal where that's going. I do wonder with JJ and Agbenone, I do wonder if there's some sort of thing in the deal that kind of indicates they need to be in the squad as part of their loan arrangements, maybe.
Maybe.
Some sort of agreement, potentially, because I do find it odd that, they're there, but they're not really playing. And they did come from quite, the kind of clubs that when they loan players out, they want them to play. So that wouldn't surprise me there's some sort of deal there. And agree, Johnny Williams, I hope that was just because, a bit leggy or something like that, and we're trying to protect him a bit. But, I mean, it absolutely was his best game in a Gill shirt last Tuesday. And but then again, I don't like him in the 10. I'll be honest, I thought his best game in a Gill shirt came as playing slightly deeper alongside Robbie. Why put him in a 10 where actually, in my opinion, he's not performed? I thought he looks busy. He's a busy player, Johnny, as well as described. I don't think he's a playmaker. I don't think he's a number 10 who's going to get you 10 goals. He's busy. You need to get him on the ball and moving the ball around and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
1-2s, etc. And that's where he's going to do it in the heart of the team.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I mean, it's like any player, isn't it? Like you've got like the likes of, I know it's a totally different league, but the likes of Wayne Rooney was a striker and then he dropped down and ended up being a central midfield player. So maybe that's where Johnny Williams is now. Maybe he's at that stage of his career where he is sitting deeper rather than being a number 10. But again, as Warren said, I'd still play him ahead of Jaden Clark in the 10 all day long. Ollie Hawkins, to me, is a better player when he comes on against tired legs. But then if you look at the bench, what do we really have? Joe Boday's probably tired. Like he's 19 years old. He probably needs a rest. JJ Morgan, you could have played him there, but then is he going to stand up to big defenders? I don't know. If we all knew the answer, then we'd be the manager. So we're just going to do. Go on, Warren.
No, I'm good, mate.
Oh, yeah. All right, I thought he was going to say something. So we do something. This is a new feature because we don't score goals usually. So we're just going to play all 4 of the goals from Saturday, and then we'll talk about the game. So that was nice, wasn't it? We actually scored more than 1 goal in a game, and it gave us a little bit of something to cheer about. So yeah, Phil, I'll go with you in your overview of the game. Obviously, we scored within the first 2 minutes, and it was basically a game of 25 minutes where it was just a goal glut, and then it kind of died off, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think quite. You know, I think a few of the managers said for the neutral. Absolutely fantastic. He thought after 25 minutes, I've got my money's worth here. And then, just kind of petered out. I'm not really sure why, because you thought with Salford trying to go for it, that, try and still sneak in the players, they might have really pulled on pressure, but I didn't feel that was the case. But, at the end of the day, I think, are we unbeaten at Salford at the moment? I think that's 3 seasons now. We're unbeaten at Salford. So we must be seen as a bogey team for them.
Didn't we? Wasn't it 2-0 last season? Wasn't it Dieng and Shad?
And then we beat them with Che the last game.
Absolutely hammered it down last season, and the pitch was like a bloody mud bath. And we thought it was going to get called off. I think it was that game last season, wasn't it? Yeah. I think it was when Clements was manager, I believe. I can't remember wholeheartedly, but yeah. And the second half, really, Phil, it kind of died, didn't it?
I mean, we didn't do a lot, did we, from an attacking sense? I had a bit of a chance, but it was quite speculative. But ultimately, it was more Salford had chances. But I don't think it was amazing chances that they had. I just think, if anything, I look back at the 2 goals that first half, I just think our defending was, I think Ainsworth even kind of, alluded to it. It was a bit half-hearted. I thought Robbie didn't do enough to stop the cross. And then Masterson dived in when if he stayed with his man as he's going across the box, he doesn't get that shot away. But because he dived in, he got the shot away. Yeah. So, I think obviously we'd learned our lesson second half and just defended. We went back to our ways, really, didn't we? Of being quite strong defensively, but lacking going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe both managers at half time probably just said, like, kind of just shut up shop a little bit, because you're literally leaking goals like anything. It was a lovely assist by the Salford defender for Romeo Hutton's goal, though, Warren, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just think that we gambled, and it was the first half. I just think that we went out and played football, and I think both teams just went at it, and it induced defensive errors. The way both pressed and tried to get on the ball as quickly as they could. I'd just like to have a look at take Nevitt's goal to start off with. Now, Nevitt makes them runs quite often, but we don't find him quick enough.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Notts County away, when Hutton put him a through ball through, he pounced on goal and scored.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, Clark's put a ball through and he's pounced on it and he's run with a ball and scored. Right? We've got to start, if we're going to make the best of Elliot Nevitt, and if he's going to be here next year, they're the sort of things that we've got to be looking at. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can start to learn a system where we're going to get the ball to him quickly on the ground, not in the air, not against some 6'8" lump of a centre half, I think we'd do very well. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed to me, and Gary Neville hit on it yesterday after the Manchester derby when it said players become robotic and they're being coached in a certain way and whatever. It just seemed that both teams went out and enjoyed their game for half an hour, and then the coaches basically turned around and said, we need to tighten up, we need to play like this, we need to be a bit more steadfast at the back, and nothing happened. And it became boring again. But the first 25 minutes was probably the best entertaining game. Take away the fact that I support Gillingham and I want my team to win, but for entertainment value from both teams having a go at it, it's probably the best 25 minutes I've seen. Yeah. All right, it was littered with mistakes, but at least it was enjoyable because both teams went at it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It was that first. It's like a game. Everyone says it's a game of two halves. I don't think it was a game of two halves. I think it was a game of 25 minutes, and then it kind of just became boring, David. So you were there as well, my friend. So what were your thoughts on it, David, on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought it was. I think Warren summed it up pretty well. I was going to say to be fair to the Salford front two, it's probably that first half hour or so was probably one of the best displays I've seen from a strike force against us. They caused our three centre halves so much trouble for that first half hour. Cole Stockton's very old school, big lump, and was causing problems. Then he had the little man next to him doing all the running, which, again, I think ideally every team at this level would want that. And I just thought definitely Masterson, Gale and Ogie in that first part of the game would definitely knew they were in a game. The pitch didn't help either. It looked a mixture of a beach. But it was really sandy. The grass was really long and it was really bumpy. And I think you could tell that from when Glenn Morris nearly scored. When it zipped off the surface and went through. But I said the goal would have done Nevitt the world of good. Whether it was going in or not before the deflection, I don't know. But it's nice to see him in the last couple of games having some shots.
Just try.
The amount of times you leave a game and you think, I don't actually see Nevitt have a shot. Like, I think he had 3 that I could remember Tuesday, and he looked the part again. Hutton's got that in him. And I was shocked to find, I think it's only his second ever goal. I thought he would have had more because the type of player he is, he does seem quite comfortable on his left. Mm-hmm. But then it just kind of petered into nothing. And you're almost just clock watching. I think we'd settled for a point. By the end of it, they had even settled for a point, considering they're, I think, still chasing the playoffs. I think they can still make it. But yeah, it was, like you said, it was a game of 25 minutes against the rest. But again, another point towards the total.
That's it. I think the only chance we had in the second half was more of a half chance. I think it was Joe Bode. He had a bit of a half chance, didn't he? Whacked at it a little bit and it went flying over. But this is progress, right? This is progress. And why does it say 1-1? It was meant to, sorry. I've made that mistake myself. I know no one was going to mention it, but I am a bit of a perfectionist and I've messed up monumentally there. So it was 2-2. And I just feel like it's progress because, we were at it. We were at least trying. We were, people go, oh, yeah, we're running around a bit more. No, we weren't on Saturday. We actually had a bit of conviction about what we were trying to do. So, yeah, I do apologise for the 1-0 on the screen, even though we've got 2 goal scorers for each side. That was my error. It's been a long weekend, and the kids are on school holidays. So we will move on, and let's hope that I've not made any more mistakes. So we will move on to our man of the matches. So I've gone for Romeo Hutton. Davey's gone for Shad. Warren's gone for Rom, and Beanhead. There you go, Phil. I thought I'd leave the Beanhead in there somewhere. So, yeah, Phil's gone for Romeo Hutton as well. So, David, seeing as you're the odd one out, mate, we might as well go with you first.
Yeah, I think I said to you, in a game where no one stood out, it was actually quite difficult to pick one. And I think I went for Shad on the basis of he hadn't played for so long, and you could tell that in the first couple of minutes. But by the end, he looked the most assured of the back three. Does what he does. The only defender in the league that I swear looks to be fouled as often as he can. Won his fair share of free kicks, cleared everything. And I thought by the end, I said I'm not a huge Shad Ogie fan, but by the end I thought he was solid. I said considering the amount of football he's missed, and I think that's the problem we may have now going forward, where your Ogies, your Clarks haven't been playing that much football. It's going to take them a bit of time to get into the swing of things, and unfortunately for them, they've only got 7 games left to try and get up to speed. So anyone else that does come in, it's going to be difficult for them. Yeah. And obviously the 2 goals, Gale and Masterson were probably at fault for a mixture of them both. And I don't know what you guys think. I'm slowly getting to that stage now where I feel Sam Gale needs a little break.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think, but for me, he's starting to make a few mistakes. He's getting caught on the ball a little bit too much, getting blocked, trying to clear the ball, it's getting blocked. And I think trouble is you look at the bench and there's not much to cover him really. But just wanted to know what you guys thought, whether you think he needs a break or whether you just keep with him and just keep getting the minutes into him.
Yeah, I think I said it to you guys on Saturday. I messaged you and I was like, I just think he needs a break. I think, he's only a kid. He's only 20 years old, 21 years old. To be thrown into a team that has underperformed all season, I do feel that it's about time that we take him out a little bit, maybe for 1 or 2 games out of the firing line, because he shouldn't have to be explaining himself on X and saying, I made the mistake, it won't happen again. At his age, he's still a young lad. So, I'll go with you, Warren, and your reasons for Romeo.
I think both teams, I think every player deserved a 6, apart from the guy who scored their second goal for them and Romeo, and that was because both of them just had that touch of class that was something different and something that was a bit out of the ordinary for the rest of the game for both sides, to be honest. He had a solid game. There was not really a lot else on show. Everyone did a job to a certain degree. There's a lot of mistakes, but I think, as Dave alluded to, the pitch was awful. And I don't think you can actually quite see on the telly how bad the pitch actually was. Yeah. But I just feel that he deserved a goal. He gambled. He put it in the top bins. That's the only reason why I go to Romeo, really, is because of his goal.
And Phil?
Yeah, I don't feel I can add too much more to what Warren's just said. Is exactly my reasons. Not much more to add. On the Sam Gale thing, I think maybe. What you got to remember as well is teams are probably looking at him now. They're working out of how can we stop Sam Gale in terms of when he passes the ball out from defence and does the things he does. So he's going through a development phase now where forwards and that are going to suddenly, well, who's this 19-year-old kid? We need to stop him to some extent. So they're going to be doing things to him that he's just not been used to up to now. So there's an element of, yes, take him out, but I think also it's part of his learning, is the curve of his development. And then you can't have Shadogi as man of the match, David. He's a scapegoat, isn't he? What do you think you're doing? Boo, hiss. Shadow's a man of the match.
I didn't mention, Chris, I didn't mention about Sam Gell. I think the only reason why you take him out of the team is if you're going to revert back to a 4-4-2. And I can't see that happening anytime soon.
But then I think me and you spoke about this on the last show we were on, Warren. We said about you'd like to see him in a back four.
Yeah.
I don't think after Tuesday night and after Saturday that he's ready to be that exposed in a four yet.
I agree, but until we try him, and although we're not mathematically safe, we're pretty much safe after the weekend's results.
Yeah.
I just think that you've got to give him a go to have a look at him in a four, right? Yeah. And I always think when you play a five and you play three centre halves, it gives people the opportunity to make mistakes, and they get glossed over a little bit because they can be swept up by
other people.
Centre half. Whereas in a four, your mistakes stand out a little bit more, and some of your whatever development's needed for certain players stands out that little bit more.
Yeah.
But please don't do it tomorrow night because I'm going to Chesterfield on a Tuesday night.
It's all right. It's only 2 hours.
I'd rather not go to a four tomorrow night.
Mate, no, to be fair, Chesterfield was only 2 hours. I used to work at Chesterfield, so it's only a 2 hour train, literally to St Pancras, and then you're straight up.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, Romeo Hutton, it was just purely because I think Bonner destroyed him a little bit. Destroyed his confidence, maybe destroyed the way that he wanted to play. It kind of come back under Coleman, but I think he's starting to show shoots of the player that he was when we signed him, and the player that he kind of was under Clements in a respect. So yeah, that's why I went for him, and obviously the goal was brilliant as well. So yeah, well done to Rom and business things. So we'll quickly have a look ahead to tomorrow night and touching on Chesterfield, funnily enough. I've got the date and time right. Yeah. Okay. All the numbers are correct. So Chesterfield have 1 drawn, 1-1 lost, and I don't even need to tell you, 5 draws. So I will go with you, Phil, and your hopes and aspirations for tomorrow night.
I think I've got a sneaky feeling we're due a win. And I think they're the kind of team, the way Paul Cook gets them playing, I think they might just leave us some opportunities about. It's whether we take them. I've just got this feeling, fancy us for a first Ainsworth win tomorrow.
There we go. So, David, yourself?
I've got a feeling there'll be another D.
Oh, you like a D, didn't you, David?
Yeah. Who doesn't? Yeah, I just... Yeah, I can't see us winning. So, yeah, I would probably take another point, and then it obviously the big game is Saturday. So, yeah, I would take another point.
Okay. And Warren?
Yeah, I think we lose 2-0.
That's what you're going to say.
Yeah. I can't be disappointed if I'm going all that way up on a Tuesday night, right? I can't get disappointed if we lose 2-0, but then it's a bit of a relief if we get a draw or a win, and it makes it for a good night, doesn't it? But I never
tell he's been a Gills fan for many a year, can't you?
I never every week. He does it every week.
Accumulators or anything. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to hope for a win. I'm going to hope for a W because David went for a D and he likes the D apparently. So, but yeah, I'm going to go for a win. I think it's long overdue and it would just be nice for the fans Just a 1-0 sneak it, even if it's a 89th minute, we'll do that. But still deciding, are we going to do a show Wednesday night? I don't know. Should we do a show Wednesday night?
Well, I'm free, Chris, so.
Well, there we go. Like, as long as... Are you free,
Oh, no,
David?
I'm not free. Sorry, I'm not free. I'm round my mum's for dinner.
Are you around your mum's for dinner? All right. Well, I might do one anyway. I might just try and find some other reprobates that will help me out. So anyway, boys, we are pretty much at the end of the show. Obviously, we would like to thank Phil for his insight to the finances and the accounts from last week. We are, of course, sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sale and Service Station. So if you need anything doing to your car, whether it be fixing or you need to buy a new one, then get in touch with the guys. We are also in partnership with the Gillingham FC Supporters Club. So you can join today at gfcsc.co.uk and find out the information there. So on to us, I guess. And our last little bit for the evening. It's been a really good show. I've really enjoyed it. So before we do clock off, if any three of you have anything you would like to add from tonight's show or anything in particular anywhere
Phil,
else.
I'd just like to say thank you to Phil because the insight into the financial stuff. I know Phil, when any of this sort of stuff comes out, he talks to me on WhatsApp and whatever and explains things in layman's terms because he knows I'm thick as shit. Right? But I think the way he explained the finances was quite easy on the ears for the regular fan that goes and doesn't really understand the financial side of a football club. And I know people were a little bit worried about having the subject mentioned and whatever, but I think because we've had Phil on, he's able to say it in such a way that it's not going to hurt the football club, it's not going to hurt anyone else, it's just going to explain the facts and figures to us that are for shit.
Yeah. And David, any other housekeeping from yourself?
No, nothing from me. Just same as one. Yeah, cheers for coming on, Phil. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks, Phil. And have you anything else to add before we go?
No, I think I've bored you all with account speak for long enough.
Okay, guys. So if you haven't followed us yet on X, then please do TVFTM or the View from the Medway Fancast. You can also follow us or subscribe even on the YouTube channel at the View from the Medway Fancast, or join the Facebook group at the View from the Medway. We would really like people to focus on following us on X at the moment. We are literally 10, 15, 12, something like that, ballpark figure, off of 600, which is quite a humble amount, but everything helps. So yeah, we'd really appreciate it if you would consider that. So end of the show, really, boys. So I've been Chris, he's been Phil, he's been David, he's been Warren. Good night, and up the Jills.